Yeah, I'm not one of those people that say anti-Zionist because, there's been Jewish problems before the inception of Israel. And if you look at who started Israel, it was a bunch of Jewish terrorists. The Irgun, the Stern Gang, the Haganah, those were Jewish terrorists. They bombed the King David Hotel. This is before Israel even started. So they were committing terrorist acts. You look at the Bolshevik genocide. So there has absolutely been a Jewish supremacy problem before the inception of Israel. So I think saying, it's only a Zionist problem is just ignorance. I think that those people don't understand the history. They don't understand how long this has been going on. And, they got caught poisoning, Palestinian wells. We look in ChatGPT and you say, hey, have Jews ever poisoned wells? No, that is an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, trope, whatever. And then you say, okay, how about Operation Cast Thy Bread? And then, that is Jews poisoning Palestinian wells. And it was authorized by Ben-Gurion, who went on to be the prime minister of Israel, who was leading a terrorist gang prior to Israel's inception. So, no, I don't say Zionist. And I also don't say all Jews. I say Jewish supremacy, because everything they told us that white supremacy was is actually Jewish supremacy. Everything they told us that white privilege was is what Jewish privilege is. So I think it's very important to talk about this and not be scared. And I think the crux of the issue is that their religion tells them that they are chosen by God, that they are better than other people, that they can lie, cheat, and steal from non-Jews, and that, Gentiles are like cattle. And you saw that in the Epstein files. He literally, if we would have said the things that Epstein said, it would have been the most anti-Semitic thing you've ever heard. But he literally said, this is how the Jew makes money, talking about Gentiles like we're idiots, and how they manipulate the markets and this, that, and the other. The guy won the fucking Powerball twice, so I don't know. I'm just not going to ignore I'm not going to ignore history. Like, I'm going to learn from it. And until 3 years ago, I didn't even consider this. I didn't think that Jews wouldn't like me because I was Christian. But then you start reading the Talmud and you see what it says. They believe that Jesus is in hell burning in shit, and that anybody that's an idol worshiper should die. And so they consider Jesus an idol. So the religions are there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian values. That's complete bullshit. All these terms are very new. Judeo-Christian values was never a thing. That was introduced to the U.S. as propaganda. And so they've kind of hitched their wagon to Christianity for appearance's sake. But they don't actually believe that. And they've been constantly trying to pit us against Muslims, telling us that Muslims are the problem. They attack Muslims all the time. But this double standard of, if you say anything about Judaism, you're an anti-Semite, this, that, and the other, which I find hypocritical, because the Palestinians are the actual Semites. Semite is an Arab. Semite is somebody from that land. And most of the people that are in Israel are Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews that have absolutely no lineage whatsoever to that region. They have blonde hair and blue eyes. And that's why they all changed their names, because they had Polish last names. They wanted to sound like they were more from that region. And I think that when you see them lie about these things, you have to then go back and start questioning how they've been presenting history to you in the past, because every Jewish narrative that I've heard recently is how October 7th, we were persecuted. They're trying to genocide us. Meanwhile, literally committing a genocide in 4K. Yeah. And so, when they say, we don't really believe that we're chosen, or that doesn't mean this, I just look at their actions, right? Talk is cheap to me. I look at what they're doing. They're shooting children in the head. They're shooting aid workers. They're stealing land. They're constantly attacking their neighbors, constantly breaking peace treaties every time they break the ceasefires. They are the constant aggressors. They are absolutely not the victims. And then they just lied to us about everything about October 7th. First of all, they let it happen. Second of all, the Hannibal Directive was unequivocally employed, where they killed their own citizens to pump up the numbers, and then tried to use the Hellfire missiles that hit the cars as oh my God, look at what Hamas did. They burnt this car to the ground. It's I was in the military. I've shot RPGs. I've been in attack helicopters. I've blown up cars with guns. I know exactly what a car looks like when you shoot it with a gun and blow it up, because I've done it, and I've shot RPGs. Those cars were destroyed by Hellfire missiles. That is not what happens when you shoot a car. Trust me, it's really hard to blow up a car when you shoot it. I know, because I've done it a lot. I've bought a lot of cars and I've shot them. It's really hard. Unless you have incendiary ammunition, it's next to impossible to get a car to, blow up. And even if it does burn, it's not going to burn to where the frame of the car is welded with the asphalt. And one of the reasons why they couldn't get the numbers right was because the people were so badly burned that they couldn't really figure out who was who. And so then when you look at the number of actual civilian casualties on October 7th, and if you compare it, the crazy thing is they actually killed more Palestinian civilians that year than civilians died during October 7th's attack. So how could you then argue that that wasn't a response to them murdering the Palestinian civilians that year? So look at this whole narrative, and it's all bullshit. They told you 40 beheaded babies. That was a complete lie. You know, they told us during the Holocaust that people were turned into lampshades. They were turned into soap, the roller coaster. It's just all bullshit. And they admit that it's bullshit, you know? And so when somebody lies to me on the scale of which they lied to us about these events and continuously lie and gaslight us over and over and over again, it's not just a one-off incident. This is the entire government. These are, you know, like a country, right? And so now you have to then turn around and look at the lens of like, have these people just been acting like assholes for a long time because they believe that they're chosen, or have they been persecuted? You know, because I'm not denying people have been persecuted throughout the years, but the odds of every single country around the world accusing them of the same things and all throwing them out, but then never actually killing them, right? They all just get expelled and then they get let back in and then they get thrown out again. And so I look at the history and I really have to question the narrative of the persecuted Jew. I don't believe it. They need to be taken out of a victim category because they're massively overrepresented in almost every position of power. They are as privileged as any class in the world anywhere. It's not even close. And so I think there should be accountability, right? Like with great responsibility, you know, should come, or great power should come great responsibility. I mean, if you're the president of the United States, everybody can criticize you, you know, this, that, and the other. Like usually when you're in a position of power, unless you're a dictator in a communist country, you should be able to get criticism. So to me, that is the first start. Like they have to stop weaponizing words. They have to stop enacting laws. I mean, Randy Fine enacted a law to throw you in jail for 5 years for anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, he's on his own Twitter account calling for the massacre of Palestinians, saying, you know, we should kill them all, bombs away. The streets should be, you know, run with the Palestinian blood. He's talking about how dogs are better than Muslims. I mean, this is craziness. So it's like, listen, I'm a free speech absolutist. You want to say all this vile shit about Palestinians? Fine, that's your right. People should judge you based on what you say. I'm actually okay with whatever you want to say, because to me, it's like, that's just exposing you. That's exposing who you are. People will see that and they will judge you accordingly and hopefully not reelect you when you say vile shit like that on your Twitter. By the same token, everybody else should be able to say whatever they want about any other religion, including Jews. So you can't just punish people for going against your religion when nobody's actually even said nearly the vile shit that he said about Muslims, about Jews. So this double standard, this hypocrisy is what I really have issue with. Because to me, if we want to coexist on this earth as humans, I think that the only answer is pure equality, not victim categories, not supremacist mindsets, not I'm better than you or whatever, or this tribal bullshit. It's like everybody's equal, period. Like take race out of it, take religion out of it, judge people at face value based on who they are. The problem is you can't do that when small tribes have a disproportionate amount of power and they don't like you, unbeknownst to you. Because until recently, I didn't realize that, like, you know, they were attacking basically whiteness. If you look at all the attacks on whiteness in the U.S., they want to label that as liberal stuff, but that's coming from the Jewish media. Like this stuff is coming from them. And if you look at like all the downstream effects of this melting pot idea, of the attacks on whiteness, on the DEI, on all these other initiatives that they've put in place, you know, all the NGOs that they've been funding, pushing open borders, it literally just attacks whites. It's really just a focused attack on whites if you want to just break it down and look at the actual effects of what they're doing. And so I didn't pick this fight. Like they attacked me. They attacked masculinity. They attacked like being white in America. They attacked being Christian. Like, so if they want to start attacking me, well, I'm not just going to like sit on the ground and fucking take it lying down. Like I'm going to stand up and defend myself. But look, I mean, this is one of those things where I think people feel strongly about this issue. They're tired of foreign nations being put before America. This war's been a disaster. They're paying for it at the pump. They're going to see the, you know, downstream negative effects of this. We got nothing out of it. And the only reason we even engage in that war is because of Israel. It's literally the only reason. We said that. Like we said that, 18 different intelligence agencies said that Iran was not a credible threat in any way, shape, or form. They didn't have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They didn't have a nuclear program. They weren't developing. We supposedly destroyed it for 3 years. So we went into that war according to our government because Israel was going to strike them first. And so we wanted to be first. It's like, I think this kid might punch me, so I'm going to go beat the shit out of him. I mean, it's absurd. And what did we do? We went bombed a children's school. We're not in the right here. Everybody sees that. We're not accomplishing anything. It's a total disaster. I mean, if we can even get to the status quo that we were at before the start of the war, that would be a massive victory at this point. We've been embarrassed on a global scale. Trump showed everyone his ass. He's made all these false threats, which has weakened America. It's weakened our political perception. Because, how many times can you cry wolf before people stop taking you seriously? And that was a big source of our power, was that people, our threats seemed real, credible. And I think it should be illegal for a politician to knowingly lie to, the news. Like for Trump to knowingly lie to us, to lie to Americans, I think that should be illegal. I think that he has an obligation as the president of the United States to be honest to his citizens that he's supposed to be serving.